Welcome to our final Important Paintings in Contemporary Art auction for 2018. We have one more auction to go after this. It's our rare book sale on the 5th of December, which I hope you'll come and have a look at. But importantly, this week we are on view with this wonderful collection of fine New Zealand artworks, which we're really happy to bring to you. It's a great selection of painting, photography and sculpture. And I hope that you will come along to the viewing, which is every day until the auction date of Thursday the 29th of November at 6:30 p.m. A couple of nice things happened in threes for this auction. We have, of course, the three wonderful paintings by the late Don Binney from the late 1960s, which I know many of you will be keen to come and have a look at in the flesh, and the three wonderful paintings that make up the Waterfall Triptych by Colin McCann. But of course, alongside those, there are many other examples of fine contemporary art, which Ben will talk to you a little more about now.
Perhaps the most obvious place to start with this auction catalogue is with these three absolutely magnificent Don Binney paintings. I don't think we've had a major Binney painting come to auction for maybe 4 or 5 years, and then all of a sudden lightning strikes and we end up blessed with these three wonderful works, which together amount to a sort of a little mini retrospective of the artist's painting from 1965 to 1970. All three paintings relate to each other quite closely, but each is distinctly different and individual in its own way. The earliest of the three, and unquestionably the most impressive by virtue of its magnificent scale, is this work called Pastoral Te Hanga from 1965 to 1966. And it features, of course, looming in the sky, looming over the entire composition is this wonderful pi waka waka, or fantail, over the coast of Te Hanga. The artist frequently talks about, I guess, the symbiotic relationship between flora and fauna, the way the two affect each other in tandem. What you get here is this lovely kind of interrelationship between these swooping organic shapes of the birds, and then as well these beautiful windswept hills and islands on Auckland's west coast. The second of the three is this work here from 1966, Summer Fernbird 2. The Summer Fernbird, or I believe the Māori call it matata, is a bird that is greatly endangered in this age. Known to inhabit the wetlands around the lake at Te Hanga. You can see the way that Binney integrates it into the landscape again quite beautifully. Again, we have this symbiotic relationship and the way the contours of the hills recall the shape of the bird and the ferns flowing through there. What we implore you to do is come on and have a look at these paintings, because in the flesh they really are something quite special, and what you won't get on your screens or in your catalogues is the feeling of joy in the medium, the feeling of the artist manoeuvring around the paint. And Binney was a master of that, and in each of these works there are multiple painterly styles, from heavy areas of impasto to paint that is almost sort of finely combed through to a more painterly style. In all three, the manner in which Binney constructs the surface is completely different. This final work, entitled Beyond Kuataika, dates to 1970. Kuataika, an area over by Te Hanga Lake, again a walking track as well. And you can see in this work here, there's something very different to the other two works. Gone is that sort of that crisp, clear, pale, flat blue sky, replaced with, I guess some would say, a more typical Auckland afternoon. You've got these very heavy clouds, pregnant with moisture and humidity, and then soaring through them is the magnificent tui in all its glory. I think in large part, despite the fact there is some photography in the show, some great photographs and also some lovely sculptures, this is really a show, an auction catalogue about paint and about painting. A completely different type of painting is this work from 1965, Colin McCann's Waterfall Triptych. Unusual, I guess, for the triptych series in that it is 3 panels. That's not an unusual format for McCann at all. If you think about works like You're Aware of Triptych, it was a format he worked in quite a lot. I mean, I've got this theory about McCann. It's not the most highfalutin theory, but it's simply that I often find with McCann's his best works are the ones which it feels like he painted the quickest. The ones where there's just a flourish, an outpouring of creative energy which comes fast, and I think that's very, very true of the Waterfall series particularly. What we have with the Waterfall series and with this triptych is perhaps some of McCann's most economic paintings. By economic, I mean simply feeling we have 3 simple slabs of hardboard and just some enamel paint, which McCann has just stroked through the surface so quickly. He talked about the Waterfall series at length. They are some of his most popular works. He talked about his time working at Auckland Art Gallery and being absolutely taken with William Hodges' painting of Dusky Sound, and that's where the waterfalls stemmed from. These works here show this waterfall motif, I guess, at its most simple, its most elemental, and perhaps in its most beautiful form. For some reason I feel particularly close to this painting. I feel particularly fond of it. Maybe it was because it was painted in 1974, a great year. Maybe because it was painted in Dunedin, a great town. I'm not sure. Or maybe the fact it's, I believe, you know, an absolute masterpiece. Masterpiece, important, rare. These are terms that I guess get thrown around in auction houses a little bit too much. But this one here, I think, justifiably can easily lay claim to being a masterpiece. It was painted in 1974. It's called Day After Day. And in it, Harris lays down a diaristic, I guess, self-portrait, a diaristic vision of being a painter. There are all kinds of pockets of imagery, multiple narratives, almost multiple exposures in paint. I talked a little bit before about maybe coming on down and being sure to come and see these binnies. They are the type of works which you'd wait many, many decades to see in a public gallery. This is the painting you surely must just come down and see. It reproduces beautifully large expanses of colour. It's beautifully conceived. The artist has positively poured over the surface, building it up, sanding it back, building it up, sanding it back until he was absolutely happy with it. But if you're not here, you don't get to see it. You won't get a feel for the manner in which he has poured himself over the surface completely, contributing to every single little pocket of imagery, so it was done exactly the way he wanted it.
Ben, of course, has talked to you already about the 3 Binny paintings featuring birds. Fast forward 30 years and we have the work of another New Zealand artist acutely interested in birds, or more specifically the work of the ornithologist Walter Buller. 2 striking examples of Hammond's work featuring a number of the details that we've become familiar with in his paintings. In both examples, the birds appear to be looking out or watching for Buller, waiting for their master perhaps. Both these paintings have wonderful kind of oriental qualities. The wood that Hammond has painted on appears to have a kind of chinoiserie effect, and the birds are finely dressed in these beautiful chinoiserie type costumes, and it occurs in both these paintings. What I quite like about it is that the birds appear in no way to be vulnerable. They're strong, handsome creatures, watching out for what's coming next. In conclusion, thank you for watching these videos that we have been endeavouring to bring you this year. And if you've been a vendor or a purchaser with us this year, thank you. If you're just one of those people who avidly comes along to our viewings and participates, we thank you also. We hope that you'll continue to do so, and we look forward to seeing you again in 2019.